Hello everyone, and welcome to the union lecture. So in this lecture, we're going to learn how a union statement works, how it's different than just a typical join statement, and then we'll see a quick example of a union in some slides. We won't actually code anything out because the concept of a union is actually very simple. So what happens is the union operator combines result sets of two or more select statements into a single result set. And the following illustrates the syntax of what the union operator would actually look like. So you would have a select statements, so something like select column 1, column 2 from some table, and then you say union, and you'll have another select statement. Select column 1, column 2 from some table. So notice you have these two select statements, and you're going to perform a union between them. So there's two major rules you have to follow here when you're going to use a union statement. The first rule is that both of these select queries must return the same number of columns. And that makes sense. So if we jump back to the previous slide, we have column 1 and column 2, and column 1 and column 2 in both select statements. So we're returning the same number of columns. So far that makes sense. And the second rule is that the corresponding columns in the queries must have compatible data types, meaning if we go back here, if select column 1, so if column 1 from your first select statement is some sort of integer, then select column 1 from your second select statement from the second table must also be an integer. So these column data types need to match up. So you might be wondering, when am I ever going to use a union statement? Well, the union operator removes all duplicate rows unless the union all is used. And a union operator may place the rows in the first query before, after, or between the rows in the result set of the second query. So because you get this mixed up order, you can sort the rows in the combined result set by a specified column, just using the order by clause. But now that we understand union and union all, so again, the union operator just removes all the duplicate rows unless the union all is used, then we often use the union operator to combine data from similar tables that are not perfectly normalized. And what I mean by that is basically you have two tables with the exact same type of information inside of them, but you want to just join that information together. So a typical join statement doesn't really work in that sense because you basically just want to take all the rows from one table and all the rows from another table and just almost like concatenate them or mix them into a single table. So those tables are often found in the reporting or data warehouse system. Let's go through a quick example, and this will be a little more clear. So let's take a look at that example now. Imagine we have two tables. We have sales 2007 Q1 and sales 2007 Q2. And these are stores sales data in quarter 1 and quarter 2 of 2007. So we're going to have the name of some sales associate in each table, and then the amount that they sold. So you'll notice here we have Mike, John, and Mary, and then Mike, John, and Mary. So that makes sense. We have the same employees in quarter 1 as in quarter 2 of the year 2007, and we have amounts that they sold for that particular quarter. Some things to notice here is that the amount for Mike and John changes from quarter 1 to quarter 2, but Mary sold the exact same amount in both quarters. That's something to take note of. So how will we actually put a union to work here? Well, a union is going to allow us to just combine this information in case we wanted to have a table that said something like sales 2007 first half of the year, quarter 1 and quarter 2. We just basically want to concatenate these two tables together. So the syntax would look something like this. We say select everything from sales 2007 Q1, union, and then select asterisk, so all columns from sales 2007 Q2. So if we take a look at what happens after this, we get this result. We have John, John, Mary, and then Mike, Mike. And we have their name, the amount, and notice here, Mary only shows up once. And that's because she had the same value for both quarters. So as we mentioned earlier, if you just use union, it's going to delete duplicate rows. And what a duplicate row means is that every single column in both of those rows is exactly the same. So if you want to make sure that doesn't happen, you use a union all statement. So if I were to use a union all statement here, then I get both instances of Mary in this resulting table. Now I know I've been using the term concatenate, which basically means just to stick or glue these two tables together, but notice that they're not in order here. So later on, if you wanted to, you could say order by name or order by amount if you wanted to order this table. So this is really useful if you wanted to then do some sort of group by name and then sum the amounts on this table that gets returned to you for calculating the total amount of sales for particular particular employees. Okay, so that's really all there is to a union. Again, you can basically just think of it as completely combining tables together, with the two rules being that you need to have the same number of columns and those columns need to have the same data type. So really, it's almost always used when you're combining two tables that haven't been normalized yet, meaning you don't have all the information together in one table. Okay, so with that being said, we're coming to the end of that join section, and there's no challenges for the join section specifically. Instead, we're going to revisit these topics for the second assessment test. And this test is going to come right after the next section, which goes over just a few more advanced SQL commands that we need to learn in order to take full advantage of everything you just learned in the join section. So don't worry, hang tight. You will get tested on all the joins and everything we just covered here, but I want to cover a couple more advanced SQL commands. That way we can really challenge you in the second assessment test with some great questions. Okay, with that being said, thanks everyone, and I will see you at the next lecture.